Use the force, Luke. Use the blunt force, Luke. I know that it is blunt language. I know that it is blunt language to say, as Jesus has me say. Jesus is making this movie, and I'm helping him make it. It is true, but to say it like that is rather blunt. Within the U.S. Antichrist, all is well in Zion, to say, as Jesus has me culture in which we live. Meaning the phrase, Jesus is making this movie, and I'm helping him make it, is technically true, it is true, doctrinally true, but to say again, that is rather blunt language. I know, but that's how Jesus has me roll in my Jesus Greg world, which is where you are right now if you're watching this movie. Jesus is changing my language. In the beginning was the Word. So we are just beginning a new world. The story is changing. So we are just beginning a new world, the Jesus Greg world. So the story is changing. It must change, even if at first bluntly. But know this, at some point, the Jesus verse, as will be the metaverse, it will come even to you and your grandchildren. It'll come on like a hurricane. It will be a blunt force, like the Great Depression was blunt, like the advent of the internet was blunt. The Jesus verse is a hugely disruptive technology. It will bluntly get everyone's attention, everyone's eventually. Every knee shall bow. Jesus will see to that, bluntly if necessary. The Jesus verse has my attention now because Jesus used very blunt forces to get my attention. When I was born again in 2015, he told me about the Jesus verse world he wants to build with me. He still uses some blunt forces to keep my attention, though he uses sharp ones too. What are examples of blunt force? A sharp object cuts and divides the tissues as it penetrates, but a wound produced by blunt impact tears, shears, and crushes. Falls, collisions, or blows that a blunt instrument such as a hammer, brick, bat, fist, or pipe typically result in blunt force injury. Again, Jesus uses both blunt and pointed forces in order to get our attention, our worship attention, and to help bring us into his fold, to help us follow him. This movie is about blunt force. This movie simply acknowledges to the viewers, me and you, that much of what you have seen in the earlier parts of the 100-part movie and other parts you're soon to see have a bluntness to them, a bluntness that can seem sacrilegious to those who are not used to different, who are not used to approaching spiritual things in a blunt way. But in order to get closer to Jesus, which is my main aim in life, closer and closer until I become one with Jesus, so that I can think like Jesus thinks, believe what Jesus believes, feel what Jesus feels, do what Jesus does. In order to do that, I have a particular and peculiar need. I need this relationship with Jesus to feel more real, more pointed, more plain spoken, more blunt. You've probably noticed if you've paid attention. And it is a different way to approach spiritual life and relationship with Christ. Get used to different, because it is the way that Jesus is taking me in the Jesus verse. Or don't get used to different. Maybe you don't need blunt. Maybe all you need is sharp, the sharp word of God. To each their own. Article Faith 11. At this point, part 21 of the 100-part movie, Jesus Verse, the Movie and Vision, we have watched a fair number of movies with Jesus that emphasize that the Jesus verse and the Jesus worlds people like me will make therein will reframe the gospel of Jesus Christ. This movie, part 21, is to simply acknowledge that much of the reframing you have watched and will watch in the Jesus verse is reframed in a rather blunt way, and that this is by design for a wise purpose in Jesus to help people like me believe in Jesus more deeply and to love him more deeply. To state it bluntly, blunt of a person or remark uncompromisingly forthright, blunt. Adjective, blunt, comparison adjective, blunter, superlative adjective, bluntest. 1. Of a knife, of a pencil, etc., having a worn down edge or point, not sharp, a blunt knife. Similar, not sharp. Unsharpened, dull, dulled, worn down, edgeless. The opposite, sharp. Having a flat and rounded the blunt tip of a leaf. Similar words, rounded, flat, thick, obtuse, stubby, stubbed, unpointed. The opposite, pointed. Number 2, of a person or remark uncompromisingly forthright, a blunt statement. Similar words, straightforward, frank, plain spoken, candid, direct, bluff, to the point, forthright, unequivocal, unequivocal, point blank, unceremonious, undiplomatic, indelicate, brusque, abrupt, curt, short, sharp, terse, crisp, gruff, bade, brutal, harsh, caustic, stark, bare, simple, unadorned, unembellished, undisguised, unvarnished, unqualified, pulling no punches, hard-hitting, outspoken, speaking one's mind, not mincing one's words, not beating around the bush, calling a spade, upfront, straight from the shoulder. Opposite, subtle, tactful. Well, there you got it. You get it?